Welcome to the Emotional Eating Unwrapped podcast. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, an emotional eating and weight loss coach for women looking to fall in love with eating, create healthy attachments with food, and lose weight sustainably. Hello and welcome back to another new episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. Today is one of those episodes that I wish I could play for any and every woman who's ever sat in front of her mirror and whispered to herself, if I could just lose the weight, everything would be better. Because I know what it's like to believe that with your whole heart. I know what it's like to believe that happiness, confidence, connection, and peace are all sitting on the other side of a thinner version of you. And I also know the heartbreak of finally getting there or getting close, only to realize that you don't actually feel free, right? So today we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this layered, tender subject of the fantasy body, the fantasy of the body and the fantasy body. And more specifically, we're also going to talk about why it's okay to want weight loss, right? Like if you've been listening to me for a while, if you've been in my world for a while, you know that I am pro having weight loss as a goal. But why expecting it to fix your life will always leave you chasing something. And that something never arrives. And that is what this topic is about. That is what today's episode is about. And I'm going to start where I just, with what I just said, that it is okay to want to lose weight. I don't want to, this isn't an episode about how, the desire to want to lose weight, we should just try to figure out a way to get over that. I think it's okay to lose weight. There isn't shame. I don't shame anybody. There's no shame in desiring weight loss. And we're not pretending that wanting to lose weight doesn't exist. You're not a shallow person if that's what you want. You're not broken if that's what you want. You're just human. But the problem is that we live in a world that tells us just about every single day in so many different ways, advertisements, online commercials, influencers, that being thinner means being happier, that thinner means being more loved, that thinner means being more in control, more magnetic, more respected, more disciplined, more worthy, right? And we absorb that message, right? We are absorbing that message. And what happens is we start to build an image in our heads of a future version of ourselves that finally has everything that we want to feel emotionally, but we think we have to earn it through weight loss. And you imagine to yourself that this version of you that has lost weight walks into rooms without shrinking, right? Buys clothes without crying in the dressing room, doesn't second guess every bite of food, feels confident in love, gets promoted, goes on vacation, wakes up without guilt, right? This version of you that you're attaching to this thinness is vivid. And what is happening is that what you're saying to yourself is she's thinner and she's fulfilled, right? She's not just thinner, she's fulfilled, because thinness leads to these other things. And so it makes perfect and complete sense why we chase her, right? Like why we end up chasing that version. But here's where it gets hard. Here's what it gets hard to accept. That version of you, that fulfilled version of you doesn't exist because she's thinner. She exists because she's living and embodying a life that you actually want. And so the body, though it is a goal, it's not the real dream. The life was. the life was. And the skills to get that life are not attached to the skills of weight loss or the habits and the mindsets and the rewiring stuff that you have to do to get weight loss. Like those two things are separate. And that is what we have to understand and accept. And so the thing that most people don't tell you, don't talk about when you start healing your relationship with food and your body is that to really feel happy and fulfilled, sometimes you have to let go of that idea of that physical self that you built your whole life around, right? Like you have to let go of that. Not necessarily the weight loss itself, right? Like you could still want to lose weight, but you have to let go and disentangle yourself from the fantasy of who you thought you'd get to become once you were thinner. And that's the part that's so hard to name. Because it's not just, I want to be thinner, I want to be a little bit smaller, I want to feel better in my clothes, I want to lose weight, which, as we said, no shame in that. It's that I thought being smaller would unlock the life I always wanted. That's the grief. And I don't even know if it's grief, it's almost acceptance, right? It's like we have to get to a place of acceptance. And maybe it is a little bit of grief. Maybe it is a little bit of understanding, and maybe it's understanding, grief, and acceptance all mixed into one, right? When you start realizing that weight loss is not going to give you the love, the connection, the confidence, or the ease, right? With food and with eating and with your behaviors with that you imagined it would. And when you initially start to accept that, there can be some anxiety around that, right? It can feel like a gap. It can feel like a void. And it can feel like, it can become a trigger for sabotage, right? Because we have this expectation of this emotional fulfillment that weight loss is going to give us. And then as we get there, or we get close, when we realize that that's not happening and that it doesn't, fulfillment doesn't go through weight loss. Weight loss and fulfillment can live side by side, and there are things you can focus on to achieve and to bring into your life side by side. It can be unnerving, right? You might feel disappointed. You might feel heartbroken. You might feel like your identity is rocked. Because for years, that has been your North Star, right? That has been where your energy was focused. You've been chasing a version of your life that was only just 10 pounds away, only just 20 pounds away, whatever it is, insert your own number. And now that you're realizing that you could hit that number and still feel empty, still feel insecure, still feel disconnected, that's an ache, right? Like that's a grief. It is a grief, right? It's an acceptance and a grief, but it doesn't mean that you failed. And this is what I want people to understand. That sinking feeling that you get, or that kind of lack of sensational feeling that you get, that reality check that you get, people often connect that with like almost, people often connect that with that something's wrong, or I don't know if it's a failure, but it's just like, oh, this, it's the exact thing about addicts, right? It's like we chase this high or this imagination of a high, but it never is high enough, right? It never is high enough. And that's this, right? It's like you get there, but you imagine this high and it's not delivering. And that feeling of sinking, or that feeling of emptiness, we can all of a sudden think is a failure, but it's not a failure. It actually means you're waking up. Right? So there's a really amazing opportunity here to see that sinking feeling not as like going more deep into the depths of despair, but actually as the beginning of a new identity for yourself. I remember what it felt like to be stuck in the cycle of emotional eating. I tried every diet out there, counting, tracking, restricting, but nothing ever worked. Food controlled my life, my thoughts, and I constantly felt guilty after eating. But once I learned how to heal the emotional triggers behind my eating and trust my body, everything changed. I stopped obsessing over food, the weight started coming off naturally, and I found real freedom in how I ate and lived. So, I created the Sober Eating year-long mentorship to help other women experience the same transformation. So you can stop battling with food, you can lose weight without deprivation, and you can feel confident in your body again. In this mentorship, you'll have access to my proven nervous system rewiring method. You'll have access to live coaching with me, weekly accountability, and a community of women who truly understand your journey. You'll also have free access to my signature programs, the Emotional Eating Solution and Decoding Permanent Weight Loss, valued at $2,000. Click the link in the show notes to explore the mentorship today. You don't have to do this alone. I'll be right there with you every step of the way. One that, now you're in a body that if you have lost the weight and you are close, that you've wanted and actually feel confident in, so now you have to build the bricks of the actual emotional things that you want, right? So, so waking up is like you're starting to see that this fantasy wasn't actually what you wanted. It was what you hoped would give you everything else. And when you let that illusion go, it's so freeing, right? Like, it's amazing. It's the opposite of giving up. Because what most women realize when they stop, hiding in this fantasy is that what they wanted wasn't what they wanted wasn't just thinness, right? Like, they were putting all the energy into this result that can be physically measured, right? Thinking that we can just then parlay that result into emotional fulfillment. But when you wake up, you realize that what you wanted alongside losing weight was permission, right? Permission to feel proud, permission to speak your mind, to take up space, to eat without guilt, to rest without feeling like you need to feel guilty about that or continue to be productive while you're resting, which often is eating, right? That's one of the huge, one of the biggest triggers for women for emotional eating and binging is this subconscious and just internal sense of guilt for resting. We want to be seen, we want to be chosen, right? We want to create loving partnerships, right? This is what you wanted alongside the weight loss goal. The thing is permission to speak up, right? Permission to take up space, eat without guilt, rest without explanation, to feel seen, heard, prioritized, right? None of that's weight dependent, but we're conditioned to think it is, right? Through old narratives, through social media, through marketing and advertising, right? Some of the images we see on TV, they're subconscious. And at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is that it is on some level easier to put the focus on the body and delude ourselves into thinking that thinness will give us all that stuff, because it's easier almost to manage that than to unpack the deeper emotional needs and the deeper emotional landscape that we're looking to foster and create. The need for connection, the need to feel like we're worthy, the need to stop performing, people pleasing, and just be. Right. So if you're still carrying around that fantasy that when you're thin, you'll finally feel whole, let me tell you something completely radical, right? You're allowed to want to lose weight, and you're allowed to outgrow the belief that weight loss will save you. Okay. You are allowed to want to lose weight, and you are allowed to outgrow the belief that it will give you the life of your dreams. Okay. And you have the capacity to continue to feel motivated to lose weight without attaching it to it giving you the life of your dreams. And that is work that we do that a lot in my mentorship. We work on that deep part so that we could stay motivated and we don't sabotage ourselves. And we really get clear on our why behind this. So let's imagine fulfillment from the inside out, right? So instead of waiting for weight loss to bring you joy, you get to start creating a life that feels good now, whether you're at the beginning of a weight loss journey, whether you're close to reaching your goal, whether you're at your goal and you're in that place where you're like, this didn't give me the feelings I thought it was. I don't know. I still feel empty. And you're about to maybe find yourself sabotaging yourself. I want you to stop right now and ask yourself these questions. What actually makes me feel alive? Where am I outsourcing my sense of worth to my appearance? What am I hungry for physically? What am I hungry for emotionally, spiritually, socially? That has nothing to do with food. Right? Because the truth of the matter is, you can be healing and still want to change. You could be healing and still want to, optimize your figure. You can pursue goals and still accept yourself as you are today. You can work towards feeling better in your body without waiting for the scale to tell you that you're worthy, right? You can do all these things alongside each other. And when that clicks, you'll stop chasing a fantasy version of yourself that you keep saying is 10 pounds away, 20 pounds away, 30 pounds away, so that, you're not going to need to be motivated by some future fantasy. You could start becoming the real one right now. The one who feels clear, the one who trusts herself, right? The one who doesn't think that her big, expansive fulfillment, her fulfilled life is only at the end of, the end of a road where she's smaller, right? Like those things are not, correlated, right? Those things don't cause each other, right? You don't get a fulfilled life because you're a smaller person. But you can still want to be a smaller person, and lose some weight and have a fulfilled life at the same time. Okay? So if you're holding on to the belief that weight loss will be the thing that unlocks the life that you want, I want you to get honest for a second and ask yourself, what do you believe you'll feel when you get there? Do you think you'll feel loved? Do you think you'll feel more peaceful? Do you think you'll feel more confident, more free? And then I want you to ask yourself, what if those feelings weren't on the other side of thinness, but they were on the other side of healing? Right? This is why I always say that the weight loss journey and the healing journey are two separate journeys walking along each other side by side. Because the truth is, your fantasy body is not going to give you the life that you want. But your real body, the one you're in right now, that can give you everything you want. Right? That can give you the weight loss if you want it, and that can give you the life that you want it, because it holds the wisdom. It holds the strength. It holds the truth. Right? You don't have to wait to be fulfilled. Your body right now is the doorway for that. You just have to stop outsourcing your wholeness to a version of you that was never the point, right? And that's where the healing actually begins. That's where the healing begins. I'm so glad that you're here listening to this today. I would love to hear your comments. You can always feel free to leave us a comment in Spotify if that's where you listen to your podcasts. We'd love for you to follow us on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple. Please subscribe. Again, like I said, leave us a comment, like us there. And that's all I have for today. So until next time, I'm Alana, and thank you for listening to Emotional Eating Unwrapped.